Hey guys, Justin here. First off, I want to give a huge shout out to my friends at iStock. If you play VR shooter games, one secret you may not know is that almost every high level player plays with a gun stock attachment. iStock allows for the maximum precision and stability while remaining simple and easy to use, all for the lowest price on the market. You can buy on Amazon or Etsy, and it's run by a really good friend of mine, so I'd appreciate a lot if you looked into it. Alright, let's take a look at that. So, it's going to be second lap here. At Dover, there's just not enough heat in the tires and not enough grip for the first lap to work. So we're going to be having a fun second lap qualifying here. So what I do to get the run up is I actually let full out of the gas really early, like before the bridge, and then try to get back on the gas as quick as possible. And you see the line that I'm taking isn't right by the wall. That doesn't really do much for you. I like to keep it kind of a lane off the wall and try to make a really straight exit, as you've probably heard a billion times on these run-up sections. So we're gonna full throttle it, get almost all the way to the bottom, but not quite, and then drive it straight off the corner. So you see we have a really good run here. And so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take it to the bottom, and now you can be really, really brave on these new tires. So you can drive a lot deeper than you think, and I only dump the throttle to half. I don't even go full out. And I hold it on the bottom. So really all we're doing is about right here, we're gonna go to half throttle, and then we get all the way to the bottom. That should get us easily to the bottom. Don't worry about how much wheel you're using. This is just qualifying. And then there's going to be a weight shift that's really hard to feel, but once you understand what it is, then it's going to be really helpful for a lot of things. So let's take two markers here. Let's take this part of my car right here, and let's take right next to it the apron. So try to keep in focus what the apron and the car's relation is to each other. So at a certain point, the car, it's sliding up off the apron, ever so slightly, barely, barely, barely. And then there's a certain point where the car suddenly, well, not even suddenly, but the car turns back down towards the apron again. And it only happens in a very precise time frame. But there's a moment here where your car goes from wanting to slide up to the wall on its own to wanting to go back down to the apron on its own. And if you time that moment exactly at full throttle, then basically you can just hook the bottom with full throttle, max momentum, and just drive it off the corner fairly easily. And this point here is super duper easy to feel in the car once you're used to it. And you can also start predicting it too. So like, I have a feeling that the car will start moving back down the hill right about here. So I kind of almost time it to where if I get it wrong, I get it wrong. But if I get it right, then I get a huge momentum payoff. So again, full throttle when your car is going back towards the apron, and partial throttle when your car still wants to go up to the wall. That's the huge key here. You'll see that on both corners. Full throttle, and because we full throttled when the car was headed back down off the banking, then we get to full throttle it all the way off the corner. That's the biggest key to Dover. Now we're going to go into turn 3 here. Same idea. We dump the throttle to half, drive it down to the apron. Drive it all the way down. And then this is a different thing. So we didn't diamond this corner. 3 and 4, for whatever reason on hot lap, I don't like to diamond. I like to take a more singular apex approach. So we do that by entering about half a lane off the apron and then holding our partial throttle. And then also you can see that I'm not putting any more wheel input into this. So you see, to get to the bottom, so look at the orange on the wheel. To get to the bottom, I had to put more and more wheel in. And then I found a place where I could hold the wheel. And again, this is horrible for tires, so don't use this as a reference for the race. But now that I'm holding at that singular place, I can do that same thing to where at this point, if I hold the wheel in a singular place and the car wants to go down the hill, then that's when I can full throttle. It doesn't matter where in the corner it is. It will kind of work itself out naturally. But you can see that I full throttled it the moment that the car went down to the apron without me putting any extra wheel input into it. No extra wheel input, down to the apron, full throttle. And it's kind of tight here with this angle, really tight keeping it off the apron. I was really almost on it. That's kind of very, very close. But if you get that early enough and time it correctly, then it is a ton of speed. And you see here, I got a pretty darn good time. I think that 8s are possible. I didn't feel like chasing it quite yet. I might for the leading up to the video next week. But this is the right idea. It's all about timing and almost predicting when that car's weight will shift from going up the hill to down the hill. And I know I've said that a billion times this video, but this is really the most key thing about Dover. The people who are slow at Dover just don't have that feeling. And so if you can repeat that many, many times in a row, say, okay, I know when my car is going to weight shift. I know what it looks like. I know what it feels like. And now I can time it. That'll be really key for you. All right. But besides that, let's get to the long run. All right. So a bit of a disappointment, but a great race. We actually went green in Dover, which is kind of rare. But if you can make it through like the first 10 laps without having anybody cause a caution, then you have a good chance of it going green. So we started first, and halfway through the race, we kind of gave it away. And you see I got a 2x for hitting the wall. That was with the 2 to go. I was just kind of looking at my relative and hit the wall. So that it was all tire difference pretty much. I think if I wouldn't hit the wall, I probably would have finished about 2 seconds behind. But we'll take a look at it. I want to show you guys what lines worked and what lines didn't. So going from the lead in our really sweet looking iStock car, take a look at that real quick. I decided to save tires, and I did a pretty good job at the beginning to save tires. Basically just smooth throttle, letting out a little bit early, using the dirty air to block the guy behind me. You can see, if I zoom out a bit here, I really made sure to try to keep second place within a couple tenths of me, because that's when the dirty air will cause him to hurt his tires. So I did a good job of that. Few laps in, let's see, right here I feel like we're all still pretty even. Seth actually dropped back a bit, saved a little extra, which deemed smart in the end. But I needed to keep the track position, so I was going about as much as I needed to keep them behind me. And then I think around lap 30 here, I made a mistake. I think I hit the apron here. Yeah, I'm gonna hit the apron. Man, something tells me if I was just running my race and made a mistake, I was just doing the same dirty air dump every time onto Octavio, and it's just like, that's the way that you pass, is if you make a mistake. And thankfully I saved the car there, but now it's over really. I can't really defend up high, and I actually just heated up my tires a ton, taking the top line there. And I tried to keep with him, and I think after that I got a little flustered and started over driving. we'll see. Let's take a look at the difference here. So we'll go a couple laps prior. So we'll see a lot of brake, just kind of getting back to the throttle, but not getting full too early, not trying to slide any of the tires. And it's pretty evenly balanced there. It really wasn't that bad. I could have been a little smoother on the throttle. Use the brake drag, put it up to half, and then smooth it up to the top. I'd say that's a pretty decent lap. That's pretty much what I'm looking for, if I can hit those every time. But I overdrive a couple laps, or I get past, I make a mistake, I get flustered, and this is what happens. You just stack mistakes on mistakes. So now look at the difference here. Less brake, I forced the throttle extremely early for like no reason. And it's just, now I'm using so much wheel. Look at how much wheel I'm using there compared to a couple laps ago. There. It's like, no wonder I'm wearing tires, because I'm overdriving the car. And it's just something that I got to work on, just not to get flustered in those situations. Really stay in the groove. But it was basically this that caused me to have a tire disadvantage, because I kept Octavio close behind me because he was very quick. I think that if I did a perfect job this race, it's very hard for him to pass me, which is how the arrow is. But if I make a mistake and let him pass me, then suddenly I start making more mistakes. All this dumb, unnecessary early throttle, getting tight. I'm not anticipating the arrow type for some reason, so I try to force the throttle. So I just use more wheel to stay off the wall. So it's just a lot of mistakes on mistakes. And basically these few laps of me overdriving the car is what starts my really bad tire wear. And you see I'm barely even using brake anymore. Like, I'm using so much less brake than I was. And I'm just using the steering wheel to try to scrub speed. And it's just not going to work like that at Dover. But yeah, so Seth saving tires, he got to us eventually. And again, I was like, I can keep him behind me. I can keep him behind me. And then I, again, overdrive a corner. This line is really good that Seth's running. It's a diamond line. It really helps the tires. So I almost hit the wall, and so I got to back off. But let's take a look at this line to save tires. This is a very common line at Dover, and I really should have been using this, but I just wasn't. So he brakes and gets down to the bottom, lets the car slide up. Notice as the car slides up, he's not adding any extra wheel to it. And then he gets back on the throttle to turn it back down the hill. And it feels a little slow in the moment, but you're really not putting any extra load on the tires, and allows them to take advantage. So this diamond line is really going to work for him. He's going to pass a lap car here, so he's still doing a little different. But let's take a look at the diamond line here. Gets to the bottom, gets on the brake, doesn't force any of the wheel, lets it turn back down the track and throttles. That's like the perfect over line. And again, I don't know why I wasn't doing that. I know better. This line is a very common line, but I'm just overdriving. So look how much wheel I'm using. It's achieving the same things, except I'm overdriving the car, and I get bad exits. So stuff to learn. Good learning experience. I know if I come back to Dover, I definitely will be more prepared the second time around. Definitely got a good qualifying lap, which was good, and happy to get a full race without cautions. That's always nice to see. Alright, besides that, once again, make sure to check out iStock if you have any need for virtual reality peripherals for FPS games. Very highly recommended. Good friend of mine who does these, and glad to see that he's got a winner with this one, and make sure to check that out. Alright, thank you all for watching. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you all on the track.